how many people do you have in your database, and what's the percentage of conversion from them?
That's a number I don't know. But I do know how many people I have in my database. I think I have 20,000 people in my database.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those come in, we're doing pay-per-click, right? So we're getting a lot of leads that come in and they're sitting in that database, right? So
it's $5,000 a month, right? At the end of the year, it's $60,000, but that brought in $560,000, right? Your net is $500,000, right? So that's, to me, what I think of when I talk about profit. But for you, it was sort of just, well, let's just keep our expenses really low so it's really all profit. So let's focus on what we can do to get a high return without paying out much at all.
What's my ROI, right? I guess maybe that is to do with the P&L, but also like what's the activities that my agents are doing, right? And how to track those sort of things. But yeah, and then once you understand those numbers.
World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%, empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. Get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey into business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by Kiro Nasrallah and John Scipione.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up podcast. We are thrilled to have with us today Jon Carroll of the Carroll Home Team, based on the Space and Treasure Coast of Florida. This year so far, they've closed $32 million in transactions, total volume, representing about 90 closed deals. And the fun part is it's really just a 4-agent team, so very high production per agent. So excited, man, to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Of course. And, Kiro and I always like to bring on other team leaders and top producing agents that bring value to the platform. So obviously it was an easy decision, and you and I go way back, at least like 5 or 6 years now, right? I think I've known you since I joined MFO, and I feel like a lot of these conversations end up, leading back to MFO at some point, but I think that says a lot in itself. But anyway, it's somebody I've known for a long time, and I think on the way over here, Kiro and I were talking about some of the things that we'll talk about today, and our team dynamic is very similar to yours in the fact that we have about 3 or 4 agents producing a similar amount of transactions, slightly different volume just because of sales prices and stuff. But I find that on our weekly mastermind calls, a lot of times we're going through some of the same struggles and same challenges, and it's always good to bounce ideas off each other. So we thought it'd be highly beneficial to have you on here, and we're excited, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it due to we all started in the same place, right?
Yeah.
We all started MFO and all started with a heavy sales background, and a lot of our businesses look a lot alike, but they also look a lot different too. And we all try new stuff, and we've collaborated a lot through like prospecting clinics or meetups, or conventions.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming on. When on the preparation side of this podcast, John was like, I've known Jon Carroll for a long time. He's a great dude. You're going to love him. Great guy. Just don't ask him any stupid questions. So I just have to ask one, why the space? I can't even remember the treasure.
Space at Treasure Coast.
Space and Treasure Coast.
What's the space at Treasure Coast? And if you can give us how the hell you landed there. So what's that story?
Yeah. So I got to this area when I was about 8 from kind of close to where you guys are, Long Island, New York. My dad owned some beer distributors up there, and my mom's parents they moved here from there. So we followed naturally. My mom wanted to be closer to her parents. So that's how we got here. This Space Coast, we're in Florida, so it's thundering outside.
Yeah, wow.
So right now, summertime. The Space Coast is what it, just like it says, it's close to Cape Canaveral. So the Space Coast, right? So it's Brevard County, from like Cocoa Beach, where like Kelly Slater's from, to to the Treasure Coast. And the reason why it's called the Treasure Coast is because there's many shipwrecks from Spanish galleons that sunk here, like in the 1400s or so. And they found, lots of treasure off there and shipwrecks. So it's kind of a cool place. So it really expands from Cocoa Beach, Florida, Brevard County to like close to Palm Beach, like Donald Trump land.
Awesome, man.
So did you make the move to the space thinking that you'd get into real estate, or is that you were already in real estate before you got there?
Yeah, great question. So my father started a Remax brokerage. My uncle is a big agent. When I say big agent in terms of volume, up in Long Island, New York, he owns a Remax brokerage. And so back in 2000, my dad got his real estate license and with the idea of starting a brokerage here. So started a Remax brokerage. I did some BPO stuff for him as a kid, and doing some back in the downturn in the market, and then went to college, came back, and started into real estate. So that's kind of how I got my start and really got my footing. I have to say, I learned so much from him. He's just a wealth of knowledge in terms of like real estate side, investing side, and a lot of my success today, I think, starts off, with him. So.
Yeah. I think it's like, it's very rare when someone has a mentor that's like related to them that gets them into the industry. And when they do, it's usually like, you're given almost like the keys to the kingdom almost. Like here's the way that you think, here's the way that you need to process things. What are some of the things that last with you or stick with you when you think of your uncle and what he's taught you?
Yeah, my uncle, I think everybody, I think I got lucky in all the males in my family are entrepreneurs. So I think I have those footprints to follow in that path. Talking with Aaron and Aaron Novello, he's on this podcast too, and we've coached with him, all of us, and then on our mastermind. He said the certainty, like he kind of, what he does is he brings certainty to his coaching clients. I think that resonated with me too. And I think that's also having a mentor or someone who's done something before you, like whether it's my uncle or my father or Aaron or you guys or Mike Ferry or whoever it is. It's like that person brings certainty to us and just says like, hey, look, it's okay. I've done this before. It's okay to go ahead and do it. So yeah, I think that's kind of really having that mentor kind of brings me certainty and allowed me to kind of fail, take attempts at it. Yeah.
I think that's like the biggest common trait within a lot of the people that we spoke to. It's you try to look for a proven path instead of recreate the wheel. And you want to know what worked for someone else. What's a certain thing that you can invest your time in that will draw a profit and a return from, versus try to recreate the whole wheel and just fail without knowing what's actually attainable with a proven plan.
Yeah, I think it's just speeding up the process, right? Like, how can we get from 25 transactions to 50 transactions to 75 quicker, right? And the answer always comes back to find somebody that's done it, right? So I think that's why we've always connected over the years, because we sort of had that same trajectory. And so I think that's, again, why it's valuable to have you on here. Tell us a little bit more about how you got to where you are today. From what I understand, right, you're taking the majority of the 80 or 90 transactions or so you guys have closed this year. What percentage roughly do you think is listings, and what percentage do you think is buyers approximately?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like 70-80%, I would think. Listings. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. Yeah. So you're still heavily involved on the listing side.
Totally. Yeah, I'm the dominant listing agent. I would love for it to be different, but just that's how it is as of now. And then everybody else does buyers. We're transitioning that now by teaching some of the agents to take listings themselves, creating learning platforms for them to learn how to do it, and training, that sort of thing. But the evolution of how it's probably similar to what you guys experienced as well, is is just starting doing listing side, buyer side. It was really so my dad started in like the foreclosure market and only really did listings, right? He didn't really work that much with buyers, only when it made sense. So that model really always made sense to me, like just do listings. And then he had a brokerage with some Mike Ferry agents that were like top in our area, and they primarily did listings too, just did listings, right? So it was really easy for me to understand that I wanted to just work on the listing side. But once I kind of let go of not wanting to do buyers anymore, there was a year that I just kind of went from doing both buyers and sellers to, I think it probably was like my 4th year in, to saying like, hey, I'm just not doing buyers anymore. And they came to me and I just didn't even do anything with them. So I think I did like 35 transactions that year. But like they came and I just didn't do anything with them. So at that time, my assistant who was working with me, she was like, hey, look, like you're just getting like, there's all these buyers that you're just not even dealing with. Like how about I become your buyer's agent? I was like, yeah, that's a great idea, right?
Same thing happened with us. Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So the next year she became my buyer's agent, or the next couple months, next 6 months, she got her license and became my buyer's agent. And that's kind of the start of how things kind of the team, right? So,
sure.
And then from there, it's just getting more people and adding more people on. So.
Right. So that buyer's agent is still with your team?
Still with us. Yeah. She's still with us today. And
what do you
last
think?
year she closed like 40 transactions.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Over 40, probably 45.
And she's been with you for how long?
4 years. 4 years now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that says a lot. So what's the goal moving forward? I mean, are you slowly trying to take yourself out of the listing side and focus more on building the team, growing the team? Are you trying to, I know you were saying the other day on our mastermind, you're trying to focus a little bit more on some of the investment side of things. What's the goal moving forward?
Yeah, so it's always changing, and so for me, and I recently I'm just kind of trying to self-actualize and trying to see like, well, what do I who do I see myself as, right? That was the kind of something that we talked about recently, and I'm asking myself this question in the last month or 2 months or so, and it's like I really like the investment side of real estate. I really like it. It makes a lot of sense for me, and I also think it makes a lot of sense for where I am right now in my life cycle, my business. I'm also just turned 40, building wealth. I also like the consistent income. Like real estate can be like up and down and a little bit schizophrenic and a little bit sometimes, because you're like, sometimes you just don't know where your next check's coming in. And obviously a team kind of stabilizes that a little bit as well. But so I like the idea to have that, like that reoccurring, that income every month, right? And then the investment side of the real estate, what I mean is like rentals, buy and hold properties makes sense for me. And it always has. And I think I always look back again to my father, and he kind of was doing that all along as well. It's just that's like kind of his residual always over time. So I always put all my money, took it all and just always put it into real estate. Never bought like stock or anything, just rental real estate and single family home real estate, just because that was what was close to me and that was what I understood. So I think the evolution that I can see at this moment where I'm at is, and it could change next week, but from what I understand is that I see real estate right now as it's either you make a decision, either like for me, it's either you're gonna get cash or you're gonna get, or cash flow, which is like, I think, or cash is like the real residential real estate business where we trade time for money, or you get like cash flow, right? And so what I'm understanding is like my real estate business is a business that also now I transfer to real estate assets. And that's kind of, and then soon I want to transfer out of that one and move more into the other, right?
See, the thing that I always struggle with is, I don't know your financial situation, but I know you make good money. What's stopping you from buying 10 more properties, cash flowing properties before the end of the year? Is it deals? Because it's not lack of resources, right? I mean, you do well for yourself. You have a great network. in our mastermind, right? Like I ask myself the same question all the time too, right? I mean, if I see 10 great cash flowing opportunities this year, why am I not jumping on them? It's not because of lack of resources. I mean, we have the money, right? Like personally, I have money that I could set aside towards it, right? I could do some deals with Kiro. I could call you up. Like we could all pool our money together. Why are we all not buying more? And what's your answer to that?
True story before you answer. John walks in after an appointment today. He was like, bro, I just saw this 2 buildings side by side on this main street. I want to buy them. And then he's like crunching numbers. He's like,
it was on a listing appointment. I was like, as I was there, I was like, I should just buy these right now.
Totally.
And they're expensive, so I'll probably have to raise some money from you. But tell us, like, but everybody's always like, listen, my goal is to buy cash flowing property, and then, maybe I don't have to be in residential resale or depend on it every day, right? But like, what's stopping us from buying more right now?
Yeah, I think it's mindset for sure. Like, so we just talked about that. And I think it's mindset one, but I think we have to be like educate ourselves and like have that, like, we have to understand like more about that side of our business. I think we realtors, we just focus on the sales side and like the listing presentation and the buyer presentation. And that's cool. I think we should. And that generates cash. I kind of consider it as like wholesaling. I think it's the same thing. I think it's just, in my opinion, maybe there's bigger checks in there. I don't know, but I don't do it. But I think that ultimately it's just like learning it. And then also I think it is access to cash, right? I think it's learning how to, like, learning private equity, learning where to get money, learning where hard money is, getting access to capital. That's one of it. And learning like what's the numbers there. And then 2 is like what is the buy box? Like what is the property? Does it fit right into this? And then can I buy this? And does this make sense over the long term? And I think there's 2 things here to think about too, is that I'm learning. Is one is the numbers right, but also what are the terms too? Like, so there's also the term side of it as well. Like, so what's the interest rate over time? Who's holding the note? Is it the bank's holding the note? Is the seller holding the note? Like all that stuff as well, right?
Yeah.
So like, and then how you structure that deal as well. So it could be still some people are paying over asking price, but the terms are really freaking good.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is just the lack of focus. And I don't mean to turn this on to me, but it's just that's why I'm not buying enough, is because I'm focused on trying to build our team, or focused on going on listing appointments, or focusing on growing this podcast, or whatever it is. But it's lower on my list, and it probably should be much higher, and just lack of prioritization. And I think it's not an ego thing when I say it's not because of shortage of capital. It's not like I'm like, oh, these are the 10 deals I want to buy, and we just don't have the money, because there's always a way to get the money, right? We could borrow it at 12% for 3 months and then refinance, right? We could go around and raise it until you actually tell me like you've gone around to your network of people and tried to raise the money for a specific property. And then, I think it's a bullshit answer to say like lack of resources, right?
I think it all comes down to being able to separate logic from emotion, because our emotions is what stops us from actually taking that, leap to get into that, entry of like being able to see, oh, wow, this is actually possible. A lot of people are fortunate enough to have mentors who own a shitload of real estate, and they always tell you the biggest issue is the deal, never the capital, because you best believe someone will fund that deal for a small portion of it. Yeah. And look at Grant Cardone, right? Cardone Capital, for example. Yeah. He puts no money in, he leverages all the bank's money, and then crowdfunds the down payment. So he basically secures a deal that's available to everybody else, gets people to pay for his down payment, owns the portion that the bank lends him, and it's just a mindset shift about it. So I think that's accurate in that assessment. But one of the things about you, John, that's interesting and is something to emulate is the way that you strategically scale your business. Now, a lot of people go through and say, okay, you know what, there's an ROI on this part of it. I'm spending $100 a month. It's producing $1.70 or $170. They reinvest $100 again. And then over the term of the year, they're saying, yeah, this is a great return. But you do it a little differently. How would you say your strategy is in terms of scaling your business?
Yeah. We were having this conversation. And, I think it's really interesting. I think I'll put it back at you guys too, is that like, back a couple of years ago, I realized that I really knew the listing side of my business really well. And as even now it speaks in my business, I do a lot of listings. But what I didn't know well is like the buyer side of my business, right? I gave all the buyers away. So I think I wanted to find somebody that, I talked to Jon about this too, that knew the buyer side really well, had a good buyer process. How did he get leads from the buyer side? So I think in terms of like lead generation and scaling, scaling is you need leads, one. But I think, and then we talked about this earlier, is like when do we go all in, and when do we hold back or whatever? And I think it's important for me to make smart decisions based upon numbers. And so first and foremost, have tracking, know your numbers, not just like a P&L, but also like what's my ROI, right? I guess maybe that is to do with the P&L, but also like what's the activities that my agents are doing, right? And how to track those sort of things. But yeah, and then once you understand those numbers, then going all in, and then all in with all your chips, right? This all in on those lead sources. If you're gonna get 3x return on your money off of a paid per click ad, right? Shoot, right? So you pay $1 and get $3, right? So why not? Why not do it? That makes a lot of sense.
So of the 90 or so transactions you guys have done this year, you said about 75% were listings. Where would you say you guys are getting the best bang for your buck now? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's COI for sure, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of my coaches that I've worked with really helped me out with, he built a big business, I think, on the buyer side. I went and found somebody that figured out the buyer side of the business. And I think in some regard, the buyer side of the business, it's easier to scale, right? Because you can you have buyer leads, or they're cheaper and you can give them out, right? So it's easier to scale. And so, but he realized that what's the cost of that lead over he's paying for that lead, but then after he closes on that house, how does he keep that in as a COI, right? So he's really helped me understand that part of it, and then how to really to nurture that COI based upon strategic gifting and those kind of thoughts, social media, and that sort of thing. So my wife just brought a charcuterie board home, and she just packaging some stuff up, and then doing we're figuring out a VIP list of if people spend a certain amount of money, or they do or they close a couple deals with us, they're getting some kind of an experience, a personalized experience, right? So those sort of things, I think are really that's the best ROI. I mean, that's bar none. Yeah. It's the best ROI.
So I guess when we were talking about this in advance, and we were talking about making sure your business is profitable, the first thing that came to my head was all right, if we're spending, X amount of dollars and we're netting this much, right? We're obviously looking at what our profit is, but I think for your sake is for your the way that you look at it is a little bit different. It's almost just focusing on the side of the business that really is costing you very little. It's not even that it's a huge ROI, because it's just you're not having to invest a lot of at least dollars into it, right? Because you're working with people that are already in your database. Yeah. So your cost per lead is practically nothing.
Yeah, of a COI past client, right? So yeah, that's right. So yeah, it costs us something for to stay in touch with them, costs us something to to gift or whatever, but ultimately, yeah, it's very low.
Yeah. I guess the other way to say that is, if your Zillow budget's $5,000 a month, right? At the end of the year, it's $60,000, but that brought in $560,000, right? Your net is $500,000, right? So that's, to me, what I think of when I talk about profit. But for you, it was sort of just, let's just keep our expenses really low, so it's really all profit. So let's focus on what we can do to get a high return without paying out much at all, right?
Yeah, and I think the way that I'm thinking about it, because I'm looking at my numbers and they're my accountant, I'm actually have somebody that goes through my numbers with me every month. I think it's I know that your dad's is a CPA, right? So
Yeah.
I like that might be easy for you, but for me, it's like reading a P&L was never easy for me or my wife.
No, I'll tell you, it's actually harder because I trust him so much that I don't look at fucking anything. And then when he actually shows me shit, I'm like, yeah, I trust you. Just make sure it's right.
Yeah.
But so it's harder for me because I don't look at it.
Okay.
But I'm with you.
Okay.
So are you guys using SBS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they offer this like coaching, like to go over it each month. And I was like, yeah, let's just do that because like, and she's like giving the percentages of like what other teams are spending.
Real quick, I don't want to interrupt you. Just before the people, so for the people that don't know, can you just give a little rundown of what they are and what they do for you? Who they are?
So I think SBS is a company that manages like, I think 300 real estate teams, and they do accounting for 300, bookkeeping for 300 real estate teams. And the cool thing about it is what I'm understanding it to be, we just started about 6 or 7 months ago. They take all of those clients and they create a market average from all of those numbers, and they're running the averages against each other, right? Mm-hmm. So like I'll know like for those 300 clients or 400 clients, whatever they are, like on average, how much am I spending for my lead sort, like for lead gen? On average, how much am I spending for salaries, right? And so for me, that's like right now, that's really valuable. Like your technology, you're spending more in your technology, and just based upon what you want to accomplish and where you're like putting the gasoline at that particular time, because you might want to spend more money on employment at this point in time or lead gen, but maybe not, right? So for us, it's that part of it. It was very valuable to us, and so
would you say that relationship's now valuable for you to sort of compare with other teams and make decisions based off of that?
Yeah. So kind of like where we were to the point where I was making before is like they're saying that we're spending like we should be spending more on lead generation, right? Mm. So we're what we are. So our profits are our margins are high, but we probably should be spending more on lead generation. And so it's my intent to do so, but I think now back to what Kira was saying, it was like, I want to understand what is the best ROI before I start putting that on. And then kind of back to what you were saying, John, as well, is that I believe in my business, I think it's both, right? I think you need like a strong like lead gen like budget, which I think would like Outbound, like or Zillow or PPC or Realtor.com, whatever's working for you in that market. And then I think when those leads come in, how are we like loving on them? And so there needs to be a budget that goes to that too. So we can keep them in our database and repeat business with them. I think that's like kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah,
it does.
I think the struggles that we've had, like, I guess just like within our offices, it was interesting to hear you say that Kiro was bringing up the ROI topic, because that's the constant tension in our office. But I'll admit, I mean, we're all still running full speed ahead as an agent, trying to be a team leader, trying to build a team, trying to wear a lot of different hats, right? And you sign up for a service, and before you look, you're into it 5-6 months, and you realize like it really hasn't generated a lot, or it has generated a lot, but I don't really know the ROI, right? So I don't know, like I haven't. A lot of times I think it probably doesn't take a whole lot of time to sit down and really analyze the numbers, but you're doing so much at the same time that it's hard to allocate the time. But I think what we've found best is to try to sit down on Fridays and figure out like, all right, we've spent 60,000, it's brought in, 250,000. Is this good? Is this in line with what other teams like you guys are doing? Is that a fair allocation of resources? Should we be spending more? Should we double down? Like, are we that happy with the results? Like, is it easier deals? Is it harder deals? Like I can look back and say like we went crazy on calling absentee owners, right? During COVID, right? Like that's one thing I think we could have done a little different. We called a lot of absentee owners that live down in Florida but own property in New Jersey during COVID. And we took a shitload of listings from it. The problem was these are filled with crazy tenants that would not let people in during COVID and did not want to budge and did not want to pay rent. So it brought us a lot of listings, but And maybe the stress wasn't on me and Kiro so much, but it stressed our staff out because they're getting a million showing requests, no access, and all of that craziness. And then, so you have to sort of factor all of this stuff into it. But I think it's important. The big takeaway for me from what you just said was just setting aside the time to actually look at the numbers and figure out, like, does it make sense to continue with this? Have we given enough time? Because I think there's times where I'll freak out and I'm like, dude, we're spending, the American Express bill comes and I'm like, we're spending $3,000 a month for this service that I don't even remember we signed up for. And we cancel it after 30 days just because I'm very impatient. So, how much time do you allocate to give things a shot? So
yeah,
it's my rant on that.
Totally. And now are you guys, your business, you're talking about ROI and lead gen stuff. I'm just testing out what you've put in front of me of calling, outbound callers calling towards listings.
Sure.
And so we're just actually in the first stages of that, and just went on a listing today, and just that the outbound caller, I think it was an ISA actually said it, that was in a database of a canceled listing that was in our database for since 2020. They called us, right? So it was awesome. But we're really, and I have a listing I took from an outbound caller calling on an absentee owner, right? So that sort of thing. And I think ultimately so I'm curious, are you guys still doing that? Are you guys still calling outbound callers to absentee owners or using outbound callers?
We have 5 outbound callers right now. Nowhere near the level of Angel, but we've got a lot of outbound callers making calls, but they're calling a lot of different lead sources. Some absentee, some old expired, some past clients, some, all different lead sources. Yeah, but cool. We found it to be highly profitable, but like anything else, there's a lot of kinks to work out, right? Yeah. If you got 5 agents on your team, there's always going to be a rock star. If you got 5 outbound callers, there's always going to be a rock star. If you've got 5 agents on your team, there's always going to be somebody who's screwing around and, cheating the system and not, doing things in Follow-Up Boss correctly and taking notes the right way. And when you have 5 outbound callers, there's always one who's going to be, kicking around. So I think the biggest hurdle is not just throwing shit at a wall and hoping it sticks. It's throwing it and actually allocating the time to watch it, manage it, tweak things, really have somebody in that integrator role full time. That's been a big challenge for us.
Yeah. And the biggest thing to think about, John, is if you have your database and you add that, you're in polar opposite worlds, right? One, you're going to have raving fans, and the other one's random people, right? So it's completely different. But you could gauge the level of your loving on them by knowing what your ratio is. So I'm curious, how many people do you have in your database, and what's the percentage of conversion from them?
That's a number I don't know. But I do know how many people I have in my database. I think I have 20,000 people in my database.
Holy crap.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those come in, we're doing pay-per-click, right? So we're getting a lot of leads that come in, and they're sitting in that database, right? So
you might have a slightly different definition of database, which is totally fine. And that's probably a lot similar to ours, right? Yeah. Like we got, I don't even know how many people in our database.
Yeah. If you're going to if it's in the CRM, but what about COI PC? The people that you're sending, that you're loving on?
I mean, I don't know. I think probably in that we have past clients. I haven't looked, but and COI, I'm saying maybe 700 to 1,000.
I was going to say, I was going to guess. Yeah. I mean, think about it though. You said 90 deals, 75% is listings, a lot of which you said was database. 10% should come from your database.
So 72. So that number.
You have 720 people in your database.
Yeah. So we just figured it out for you. Right. You're right on track, 10%.
So what do you guys, so I'm curious what you guys, because I know you're not coaching with Mike Ferry anymore in MFO, right?
No.
Okay. So, and I'm curious to hear how have you changed your business and mindset since you left there? And I mean, obviously we're all grateful for it, I think, and that sort of thing. And I think we're all shared that, but how have you changed your mindset? And also how has it applied that to your business? And And how have you seen the growth there?
I would say the biggest reason I got out of the MFO coaching program is simply because the coach that I was working with, Steve Powers, had left, and the coach that I was trying to get in front of was full, so I couldn't get in front of him. And I just that was around the same time I met Aaron. And the big difference I would say between Aaron and the Mike Ferry program, and I should say this too, is like MFO changed my life. I mean, I owe everything that I have to the MFO system, right? Introductions to people like you, introductions to 90% of the people we've had on the podcast. That's how I met Kiro. It got me from 25 deals to 50 deals to 75 deals to 100 deals. It just, skyrocketed everything. So everything comes from that. And that whole idea of having a profitable business and that's prospecting focused. The biggest difference for us now, I think, is, I'll speak for both of us, is just that I think what Mike teaches you is that you need to be a highly paid technician. And I remember going on I think it was a guy's weekend or whatever to Miami, and a buddy of mine owns another business, and the whole weekend he's just hanging out by the pool, relaxing, and I'm sitting there 400 phone calls, and he's I'm like, dude, what, you own your own business, what's going on? Why is this different? And we sort of broke it down, and I realized I don't own my own business. I'm a highly paid technician that doesn't really do much business when I'm not there, right? Even if I have a TC and a listing manager and all that stuff, and they can handle a lot of the calls, it's not a business if you're the sole marketer. If I'm the marketing department and there's no deals coming in when I'm not there, then that's not a business. So the light went on, and I realized I was just a technician, and I realized, I think, unfortunately, I love Mike to death. He makes a lot of people feel like deals can't come in from other sources that are not you. He makes you think that you have to be the rainmaker. And I think that's, wildly inaccurate and irrelevant and outdated. And there's plenty of high producing teams out there that have a lot of business coming in with, from other sources. And there doesn't just have to be one rainmaker. So that was the big aha moment. And I think that's around the time I started coaching with Aaron, and we saw eye to eye on some of the things that were sort of outdated in MFO, and things like that I thought we were missing from our business, whether it be social media or just more attention, right? I mean, I could go on the attention route conversation, for hours, but that was the idea. So to be able to grow, and I'll say this too, Mike doesn't preach that idea to everybody, because not everybody can run a business. A lot of people just have to be a prospector. But I think the people with the right mentality, the right mindset, that surround themselves with the right people like you and the other people that are in our masterminds, can run a profitable business that's not based on, them being the rainmaker. So
I completely
long-winded answer, but I think that's why you and I connect a lot too, is because we realize we don't have to be the sole producer.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yeah, Kiro, I'm interested to hear what you have to say too.
I'd echo the same thing. The only thing I would say is that, the coaching in itself, learning how to be an effective salesperson is one thing. Proximity to the organization itself is something that we'll never get rid of. So the mindset will always stay the same, no matter what. The only thing is that your circle grows and your proximity to more amazing people. We used to be very gang-like mentality where it's you ain't with MFO. Who was you? But now it's just it doesn't matter who you are. If you're with EXP and you're getting coached by someone we don't even know, but we're curious to know what the hell you're doing. And it's vice versa with anybody in different different areas in the state. It's just, highly effective people. We want proximity to them, and that's all it is.
Yeah, and I think it's for me, it's I think we, all of us, we want to be entrepreneurs. We want to I love and building something. I love that. I'm realizing I love to build it. And we on some of our calls too. It's it's not easy. It's not easy to build it. And I don't know. So I love the idea of building it. I love the idea of building. Building as big as I want or big as I can. Or it's the challenge of that. How big can we build it? And then And then also what that enables us to do, it enables us to like have more time, more leverage, able to help more people, like really impact people's lives, like, you know, people that are agents that work for us, and teach them how to do it as well. So yeah, I think it's really cool. It's like if we could be a real estate business owner, right? Instead of like a renter, but like be like a real estate business owner, and like be able to manage that and sits on top of that. That'd be glorious. I would love that.
Yeah. So you tend to see that there's three kinds of people out there, like ones that build out of necessity, right? It's like mother's necessity creation. What is the saying again? Necessity is the mother of creation. So essentially, if you need to grow, like your assistant wanting to be a buyer's agent, it's like came out of necessity. Another one is out of survival, like Blockbuster needing to change its route because they're going out of business because of a Netflix adapting for survival. And then you have other people who build because of inspiration. Which one do you fall under those three categories?
I think I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think I build. I think I build. I don't know. Maybe inspiration, but I think I probably, this to be honest with you, I probably build because I have some kind of chip in my shoulder, right? To improve something to somebody somewhere along the line. Like maybe it goes back to what we originally talked about. But
that could be out of inspiration.
Out of inspiration, yeah. So, but I think but I, you know, it's cool when you have kids, right? Because you start thinking about things differently. It's like, you know, and my role as like, what is my role and being an example to somebody, like as a father, like, so like totally. I think that's how it's kind of evolving into being an example for somebody else, and like how big can I do this, and what can I accomplish, and then like, and just like my father or my uncle, we talked about like pave the path for somebody. It's a lot easier if like, you know, someone's paved the path already, it's that to see that path or to for you know, for somebody to take that path. So I think it's changing into that. So that's kind of my inspiration now of building something for them. And I think that kind of sparks my idea of like wealth building too, right? So anyway, yeah, I think that's why. How about you guys?
Definitely inspiration. For sure. But what I'm realizing now, and actually, this is why I called you last night. I was speaking to another agent in our marketplace. I can't say who, but what he was talking to me about was just how he gets really excited to like inspire like younger agents. And I've realized, like, after talking with Aaron about, like, I think it was at a Freedom Builders event actually, of like, why am I doing this? What is this for? Right? Like, we all want to make money, of course, but why? Like, you know, what gets you excited? And he sort of pulled it out of me. And like, my real excitement is working with some of these younger agents on our team, right? Like, we have a buyer's agent on our team who, you know, will do 40 transactions this year, which will probably put her at around, I don't know, $230,000, but she's 29 years old. And I've told her flat out, I'm like, I'm not quitting until you get $500,000. And I'm still not quitting, and we're gonna get you to $1 million. And we actually just signed her up for a coaching program today, which will probably get her from 40 deals to 60 deals. So, you know, those are the sort of things that inspire me. And then we have another agent on our team who's, you know, been working really closely with Kiro. She's 19 years old. She's a full-time college student. The first day that she met with us and we told her what the deal was, she was like, all right. She came back, called me the next day, and she's like, hey, I moved all of my college classes to the afternoon because I have to be here in the morning to prospect. And I'm like, so what does prospecting mean? She's like, I don't know, but I'm just going to do what you tell me. So she's taken our lead, and she's closed 7 transactions this year. She's got
a few pending.
Rentals, she took 2 listings this week.
Yeah, and 4 so far, which is insane.
I'm still not totally sure she has an understanding of what the hell she's doing. Nope. But she came back to us this week, and she's like, hey, when are people going to start asking me objections? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, yeah, dude, the 2 listings she took were at 6% and at a price that she suggested. And
lower than what she was expecting.
Lower than what she was expecting.
Because she did so good at the presentation. It was insane.
Incredible.
So, and I give a lot of credit to Kiro for that, because he's been coaching him up and you know, and like, I forget who it was years ago. I think it was Valerie Caro who said, listen, if your pre-qual is so strong, you're only going on qualified appointments, and really your pre-qual is your presentation. And when you actually physically go to their house and sit with them at the kitchen table, you're going there to pick up the listing agreement because you've done all of the work, right? As when compared to the average agent that's in your neighborhood, the first time they go to the house, it's like, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to check, I'm going to go through and write down some things, and I'll get back to you next week with what it's worth. And then, they never actually have a chance to close, right? We're going there just to close and pick up the agreement. So to get back to your question, is that's what gets me excited, is like teaching these younger people. And Kiro and I don't have it all figured out, but teaching them what we know and what we're continuing to learn, and, being able to inspire people who actually want to do it. Because everybody says, I can't tell you how many times we meet with people that are like, yeah, I want to get my license and I want to make a lot of money. And then we're like, okay, so go get your license and call us when you got it. And we never hear from them again.
Yeah. So that's so awesome, right? It's like, and I think it's you guys, a testament to you guys, just like kind of clearing the way for them. It's just like, hey, look, it's really actually pretty simple. Just go ahead and just go to the listing appointment and say this and just have them sign this, and this is ultimately that's all you have to do. Just memorize the script.
Oh, and by the way, we have a team of support that is going to close the deal for you when you get it signed. So just go there and bring the pen and just push it. Yeah. And we're going to teach you how to do everything else.
A funny part. So one of the appointments 2 weeks ago, she presents, she's like, last question, do you want me to handle the sale for you? The guy's like, yes. And she freezes and looks at me. She's like, we leave the appointment after they sign. She was like, what happened there? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, he said nothing. He just said yes. Like, where was the objection that we role play all the time? I'm like, no, that's like that's a good outcome. You want that outcome. Second appointment, she's like, no, this is seriously getting boring. Like, no one really cares. They want less money for what the home is worth. Yeah, she was getting very cocky, but she deserves it because.
So this morning when we were role playing with her, I was slamming her. I was like, what did I say to her?
Back to back.
I can't remember, but we were hitting her with a lot of objections because, obviously we're making a joke of it, but the thing is, you don't get objections if you have a great presentation, right?
Right.
And I don't think she understands. She's in her mind, she's like, she never had a bad presentation, right? So she's going there and she's a sponge, right? Like a lot of people, you tell them what to do and, they remember 30% of it. You tell her what to do, she remembers 120% of it, and then she could do it better than you, right? Yep. So, which is scary in itself. But she goes there and she presents at such a high level because she could deliver what she learned so quickly. And then she's sort of surprised with the outcome. But the outcome is what it is because she's so good at regurgitating it.
What's the practice?
That's right? And it's like, it's just the confidence, right? And then when you're like, it's funny you ask that question, like, so, do you want me to help you with the sale? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, and it's all because of, it's just really just because you just comes across as what you're talking about, right? It is a little bit like fake it till you make it in some regard, right? It's like, you know what you're talking about. So they're like, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'm laughing because she was like, she's like, well, the guy was like, well, why else would you be here? She was like, do you want me to handle the sale for you?
And the guy was like, from what?
Isn't that why you're here? I'm like, well, a lot of people are like, I got 4 more people after you. Like, so let's make it quick.
Yeah.
But it's just sort of funny to see her perspective. And, I never really thought of myself as like somebody who would enjoy like teaching, but like it really is enjoyable. The caveat is when the people appreciate it and when they actually take it in and they actually like invest time into it, right? Because, we just changed the policy on our team, right? Like we're not training anybody else until they actually have their license. Because I can't tell you how many times people are like, let me come in for some of the training like while I'm in the course. I'm like, no. Like time is too valuable to spend with somebody and if you're not actually licensed yet. So
no.
It's true. I mean, someone can totally change their whole life. Like you said, this girl is making $250,000 or even like, 150,000, right? Or whatever it is, right? It's like, you could really just change your life and it's not that difficult, right? It's like, you just memorize, like Aaron would say, it's just like memorize a script. You're a highly paid actor or whatever, you just memorize it, right? Memorize it and go. And people are so adverse to memorizing the script. But I mean, you could really change lives or change your life around just by just memorizing like 2 or 3 scripts, right?
She'll probably make $150,000 before she turns 20 years old.
Yeah.
Right?
John was yelling at her yesterday. He was like, I'm going to make you $1 million before you're 21. And she's just like, okay, I guess. which is,
and
she'll probably do it. That's the
I keep
crazy
joking
part.
with her. I'm like, hey, you're going to have to start like, buying your parents some stuff, because either that or they're going to charge you rent, right? You may need to get a separate bank account, and you may need to start paying for your own gas. But it's just, I mean, obviously we make a joke of it, but like, that's what's really cool to me. And that's what gets me excited is being able to teach and train these people. So I'm slowly trying to move more in that team leader position, find more people that are willing to invest the time, willing to learn, willing to make sacrifices, right? Like, I mean, this girl literally is in our office for role play at 7:30 in the morning. She leaves at 12. She's doing admin and stuff. Then she goes to class till sometimes 8 or 9 o'clock at night, right? And most people her age are not living that sort of schedule. So
Yep,
is she
she's making a
sacrificing
sacrifice.
some college parties and all the crazy shit that I probably got involved in? Yeah, but it's gonna pay off for her tenfold. So, I guess where I'm going is like, how do we find more people like that? Not for selfish reasons of like having them on the team and generating income, but it's so that we can all grow together. Because I'll tell you, she teaches me more than some other people that are, been doing this for years, right? You think that people who've been doing this for years or years longer than us could teach you more, but like sometimes she teaches me even more. Like she'll just make it even more basic, right? Or ask simple questions, and you're like, yeah, I don't know why we do it that way. But it's pretty inspiring. I don't know if I sound old.
No, you can see how inspired he is by that, by it, which makes sense. But I guess what's interesting, and I guess the biggest thing is because you brought it up, John, a couple times, right? So you're saying like you get inspired and you want to do something. John gets inspired and he wants to do something. He just talked about that, all about building someone up. When do you know to put the gas on it? When do you know when to pull back on it?
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure that out. I just gas. For me, it's just always gas, right? That's our John too, and you guys as well. So Carol, you too. But for me, it's like I'm trying to figure that out. Just gas, and that's kind of the reason why. I think if you have like goals and a plan, and you have goals, you should be. I mean, you should be excited. You should be excited to get up and. Now I have a family, so I'm trying to balance all that. Like that's important, right? And my wife's kind of bringing that up to me all the time. Like, how do you like just balance this, right? So, and real estate's a difficult thing to balance sometimes. I think you really need to have a schedule. I think it really goes back down to the basics of just having the schedule. And and it's came up for me today. And it's like, how it's like sometimes like you just like. You like realize things again, like you like have a better understanding of like something so simple. You're like, oh, got it. Like that's what they meant. Or like, and then again, I probably will have another year down the road. Like, oh my God, right. I got to actually put so I was thinking about this today of like basically planning out my week and my schedule each week. Like, so on Sunday at 3:00, going in there and like putting in like, a time to do social media or time to do, I want to have like my team come up with reports, like on like an activity report, a financial report, like, and then we go through reports and that sort of thing. And like so like all these time as we start having more people that are reporting to us, like, so I guess to like a roundabout answer to that is like, I think it boils down to like a schedule. And then like, once we can organize our life in a way where we're really scheduled. I mean, really scheduled to like a minute. And then even having someone schedule it for us, like, I think that's going to be the key to probably some, level, like, quell some anxiety, right? And some like turn it on, turn it off situation, right? Because now I'm like, this is my scheduled time to have lunch with my wife, and this is scheduled time to have lunch with have time with my kids, and this is a time for me to meditate or go to the gym or do whatever that is, right? So I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
I think one of the best activities that I've done, and I can't say I've totally figured it out, but you just sort of list all the things that you're doing every day and just figure out the ones that you actually enjoy doing and the ones that are the most profitable. And then just try to find people that are within your existing team, or maybe you have to hire somebody to take some of those things that you don't like doing every day off of your plate, right? Like, I was still doing a lot of like the QuickBooks and the accounting for our team because I'm a sick human being who enjoys like the numbers side of it. I still couldn't really tell you all the ins and outs of a balance sheet and P&L, but I finally have a virtual person who, handles all of that for us, right? Yeah. And then there was other things like honestly, organizing this podcast, right? Like you got a bunch of emails to make sure you were going to be here on time, to make sure you knew to wear like a headset and like to have a link to join in. Like that's Dana from our team, right? So like we took that off my plate because I didn't want to do that, right? So just sort of going through your schedule and figuring out a list of things you do every day that doesn't necessarily have to be you, and just scheduling it and pulling it off and figuring out like time blocking for the highest and best use of your own time.
Yeah.
So here's the next question then. Like, what is the highest and best use of your time right now? Like, so I think that's where I think like, so now what do I like, but now what do you put your time into? And like, how do you fill your schedule with the best use of your time?
Well,
that's a great question.
That's where I struggle. So this year it's been trying to build the team and trying to add team members that will actually bring value, whether that's like administrative support or actual agents. And I've realized that sometimes you can't track your results as closely as you can by saying I took 20 listings in the month of July. I've also realized that being a leader is wildly different characteristics than being a team, a rainmaker or a listing agent. And I sort of thought that, it'd be an easy transition, and it's been a lot more difficult. So how do I spend my time? It's still between taking some listings, not solely because I think I need the income, or I think it's solely based on competitiveness. Solely.
Totally.
No, for me, it's, and this is some sort of coming back to us a lot, but it's fine. It's I think people find it valuable. I got to the point where I was like able to take a lot of listings, 15, 20 listings a month is probably like my best month, right? So to know that you have that skill and then to not use it and transition to something else is crazy to me. But it's also what I want to do. I mean, I want to build the team, right? So it's just sort of knowing that you can do something and make it very highly profitable, but saying, no, I'm going to do something else, right? Like you're training for the Ironman, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Right. When are you doing it?
November 5th.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Right. So it's almost as if like you got really good at like, I don't know, like some other sort of competitive sport, right? Let's just say like rowing or something, right? You got like really good at it. And then all of a sudden you're like, fuck it. I'm going to do a triathlon. And while you're training for the triathlon, you're sort of like, oh shit, if I stuck to rowing, I could have been, ranked much higher. And you sort of just like keep looking back. So that's my struggle.
I think this goes to like, and we guys are all in the same place. It's just so cool that we're like to kind of roundtable this. So then what is like, and I think this is the trick, right? This is like what we don't see. Like what's the next thing that we have to do, right? In order to have that, like we were talking about that quantum leap. Like what is that thing? Like, well, we know that we can like quantify like listings, like 20 listings every month, but I would think it has to, if you were talking about team building, it boils down to recruiting. Like
that and creation.
Recruiting and would you say? Well, that's what I was thinking too.
We had an amazing call actually earlier today where it was like much needed and timely, where the speaker was basically saying that, he spends the majority of his time building out systems and plans and trying to figure out a way to put it into action, finds key people in the organization that will execute on it. Once he builds it, he does a beta test, gets feedback from both, makes adjustments, creates an SLP, and then assigns somebody to manage it, and then goes on to create the next thing. That's probably the highest and best use for a CEO or owner of a business to do ever, right? Aside from having, because you can hire a recruiter, but you can't innovate, integrate, and then assign someone to manage it at the same time, because a recruiter is replaceable. But someone to create something that's irreplaceable, I think it comes down to finding people or being a person who does something that very rare or very little amount of people can do, because then that just increases the amount of value.
What would you describe as like, confusion. Is there a true integrator? But then I always come back with the question of, do I integrate it integrate this lead generation platform and then only have 3 agents to give those leads to, right? And then I'm like, oh shit, now all these people are slammed. Or do I have to have the agents and then bring the leads? Because the agents go where the leads are, right? So I think I'll answer my own question, say you really have to have that lead platform, create the systems where people get the leads. And of course, it's always changing, but you're creating a platform that's going to attract agents, giving them the support and all the things that they can't get or don't have access to in other brokerages. And, then give them the training and stuff like Kiro was talking about with some of the younger agents so that they can actually convert those leads.
Yeah, so I think it's cool, Kira, because I guess when you said that, I was like, yeah, you're exactly right. That's what I need to do. And then John said, like, yeah, you're exactly right. That's what we need to do. So I think it's like a chicken and the egg thing, right? So, and then I was like talking to one of my coaches, Jason Simard. His thought, and this is the PPC thing. His thought is like, I want to be drinking out of a fire hydrant. Like I think, and he's a visionary, right? So he's like, I just want to drink out of a fire. I want to drink out of a fire hydrant, and I'll solve all the problems after that. So let's throw $25,000 at lead gen every month, and let's figure this out. Let's go, right? And I think it boils down.
Sounds like this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you don't try something, you won't know what works and what doesn't. So
right. So and that takes some risk, right? And it takes some kind of like what we were talking about earlier, of like that like just diving into it and just seeing if it works. So, however, you just have an appetite. You have to have kind of an appetite for that risk. But I think, yeah.
I think it's just, and I talk about this with Aaron Novello all the time. I think I just have to, me personally, this always somehow becomes my like therapy
venting session.
It just say, fuck it, dude. Like I'm not focused on the listings anymore, right? Like I just want to grow the team and really focus on this integrator role. But for me, what's hard is to actually track your progress, right? Like my biggest fear is taking steps backwards, but I feel like I only know how to track steps forwards, and it's tough.
Totally.
It's almost like knowing that you're like this, like becoming like this blackjack like pro who's got a good winning streak, and then sort of saying like, nah,
let's play roulette.
Now I'm gonna go play roulette. And I'm like,
but then
why do you want to learn roulette so bad? Like, why don't you just focus on like?
But if you think about it, it's always a who game, not a how game. Because think of it like this: like Vincent Lombardi was good at doing what?
Winning.
Coaching. He was
coaching.
Yeah, coaching. Right. He was just strictly coaching, and he was teaching people how to like beat past their limits, and he would beat the shit out of them. The players used to say, I'm reading his book, so I'm just quoting him. It's a book called How to Be Number One. And he's like, the players used to always say, if Vincent Lombardi said, hey, go to hell, they'd be excited for the trip because he would torture them during practice all the time. But that's what he was really good at. But Vincent Lombardi wasn't a scout. He wasn't looking for other players to come on board. He wasn't a recruiter trying to sign contracts or upper management or middle management. He just did one thing really, really well.
Yeah.
And it's just finding that one thing that you do really, really well and just doing that hyper speed. And if you're not good at it, find the best person who is, because it's a who problem, not a how problem, and then try to get that person to be associated and get proximity to that person. I think it's so simple when they break it down, but it's not easy. And it's like simple but not easy.
Yeah, you're right. What do you guys like? What's your one thing that you're good at? I mean, for us, it's always like, hey, for me, it's like listing property. For listing property, that's always comes to mind. It's like listing property. But I think I'm pretty also like being resourceful. I think I'm pretty resourceful too. Like, but I mean, if you guys had to pick one thing outside of listing property, what are you good at?
You should lead with that answer first before we give ours, because we need some time to think.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. For me, I think it's just building. Like I'm good at building. I'm good at working. Right. I'm good at build. I think I'm pretty good at building.
Building what though? Systems, teams, process.
Yeah, I think I'm honestly. I think I really have a good vision for stuff. Like I know where I want to go. I can see. I do the research on what I want. I can see. Like I can see myself. I almost like pick this trend before the trend happens. I see that happen a lot.
But then, do you take action?
and I take action. But I don't know if if it's the I don't know if I'm like the best at taking I do take action, but I'm not sure if I'm most effective in the way I take action. Always as someone, I mean, if I'm just judging myself as somebody might be else, but I do have a great insight on, like, I feel like as like what's the next step, and then the processes. I think we're getting really good at, like, kind of what Kira's talking about, coming up with the processes, and I'm realizing, a lot of times I've done a lot of hiring and firing. I realize a lot of times it's not the people necessarily all the time, it's the process that's messed up.
Yeah.
And if I can make the process, a lot of times actually with virtual assistants, and you guys do the same thing, has allowed me to do, is come up a really great process, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because of language or because of whatever it is, like, you have to come up with a really great process. So we've been coming up with some really great processes, and the really cool part about it too is that like these fuck ups, like we had a situation today. Like, so we had a situation where we had an offer that backed out. I thought we had a backup offer, but there was not communication between the listing coordinator and the transaction coordinator of, like, we never got the backup offer actually signed, and we never followed up with it. Like, and then we just showed like a hole in the business. And then, like, the question before would be like, or like the way that I would handle it before would be like, you didn't do this, right? You didn't do this and you didn't do this. But now it's like, well, hold on. What happened? What's wrong with the system? Why didn't we communicate there? What can we, like, what kind of checklist could we implement there so that doesn't happen again?
That's exactly the same thing I was frustrated with about 2 hours ago. It's you always have to put it back on yourself, right? I'm not upset with the people on our team about a deal that falls apart. I'm upset that we didn't have a system in place to prevent it from falling apart, because of the particular situation I'm talking about could have been avoided. And so I get more upset about the fact that I'm 15 years in the business and still don't have a process. But I think what we've said a few times now is just we all focus so much on getting the next deal. And this is actually what I was talking about with another agent in our market yesterday. Is he's newer to the business, a few years. He's actually still part-time and doing a really high level of business. And he's like, dude, I don't even know, like, if I'm, like, running comps the right way, or, like, am I even doing a presentation the right way? And, like, where are, like, my holes? And, like, no one teaches you that stuff. You just sort of learn as you go. But it's like a lot of, like, Sundays and nights setting aside time to sort of build the plane as you're flying it, or take a step back from the deals and try to plan it all out. But then, your income suffers. So I think we're all saying the same thing here. It's just trying to figure out, what we should be focused on. For me, I like the integration side of it. I like actually implementing the ideas that we think of. I'm slow to implement sometimes because I'm, like, analyzing the details, but
I'm going to answer John's, because
I also want to be more calculated.
Yeah. John's number one big gift is being able to connect people. So it's like, you're going to hate John if you're not a type A personality, but if you are a type A personality, you're going to want to be around John, right? So, like, everybody on our team is, I've tried recruiting people too, but we always let go of them because they were, like, weird. And maybe we, like, let, some standards slide or whatever the case it is. But when you look at the people on our team, right, John did a really good job of connecting them in there, and they're all type A's. I would say right now they're all type A's, right? It's like the weak will suffer and die, and they'll hate John. They'll probably not feel any way towards me. But you have a really good way of weeding them out. I'll say that's probably your strength.
So how do you, I'm curious about that, because I'm a type A personality, and for me a lot of times, and I love it, we're just talking about this, like, I butt heads with those types of people, like, because we're like, I'm so competitive, right? Yeah. So how do you find yourself not butting heads with them? Like, if someone's like, well, I want to do, like, I guess you maybe create enough space for them to be a listing agent or to do.
It's different when you're competing with them versus when you're investing in them.
Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say type A, but I would say it's a lot of people who want to go the extra mile.
Highly effective people.
Who are not afraid of hard work, are not afraid of, putting in, 15-hour days, 7 days a week. Like, you tell them to do something and they don't question every aspect of it, and they just do it, right? And they just sort of practice blind faith. So I think it's the hard part is making sure we're all running in the same direction. But, like, we were talking to some other people today, and they're like, in my personal opinion, if you're trying to grow to like a 20 agent team, there should always be 2 or 3 people that are on their way out the door, and 2 or 3 new people that are coming in, right? It's almost like a really good landlord. If he's got 100 apartments, he should always have 5 empty, right? Because if he doesn't have 5 empty, then he's not pushing rents enough. He's not being aggressive enough. He's not having people tell him, no, those rents are too high. So if you don't always have 5 agents leaving your team, then you're not pushing those agents hard enough, and they'll, you should always have people that are a little bit scared. But I was saying today, I was like, it's almost like managing a sports team, right? Like your role on this team is to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't do it, we don't have a place for you on the team. I'm sorry, the leads are too expensive for us to give them to somebody who's not doing what they're supposed to do. You don't produce, you're not on the team. It's that simple. But I think we're all saying the same thing. I think it's just now a matter of taking action and actually implementing it. So I'm aware of our time here. I want to make the best use of your time, of course, as well. Any questions for Jon in closing?
Yes, I'm going to go to the machine gun round. You ready?
Let's do it.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Oh man, I don't know. That's just so many. I think I think discipline makes my goals happen. I think that's good advice. I think it's just staying disciplined, and you can do whatever you want. Discipline and consistency.
Discipline and consistency. Okay, good. Now, what would you say was the worst piece of advice you were ever given?
Oh man. I don't know. Yeah, I try not to remember the worst piece of advice.
I couldn't tell you what my worst piece.
Mine was go to school. Happy I didn't do that.
Did you do it?
No, I didn't finish college. No, but that was a piece of advice that my parents kept pushing on me. So it was, that was the worst piece of advice.
Good.
It's easy.
Good.
All right.
Awesome,
so you
man.
couldn't answer that, but John's gonna paint a scenario for you.
What's that?
With the kids.
Oh, what's if you could only give your children, I know you have 2 kids. How old are they?
Ben is 4.5 and Sam is 15 months.
Awesome.
He asked you this in advance.
Sorry, I didn't mean
because
to
there
quiz
might
you on
be
that.
a risk-taking situation
If
here.
you could only leave your kids with one piece of advice based around money, what would it be?
Invest in real estate.
I like that.
Yeah.
Last one is if
And
your
Dad will pay for it.
if your kid's life depended on it and you needed to double your business within 12 months, what actions and steps would you need to take to get there if their life depended on it?
Double my business in 12 months. I would just do what I know how to do, right? I would just work my ass off and get on the phone and set listing appointments and just go, just not stop, like a machine. That's what I know how to do, and that's all I would do, and I would make it happen. I would triple it.
So then the question always is, well, why aren't you doing that now?
Yeah, I think it boils. I think right now for me it's really stepping back, and I think when we started is guys. I think for me it's like I'm questioning everything. Like, and I don't know if like someone was on a call the other day and someone was like, well, something is like, I forget what the question was, but like I'm trying to get out of real estate.
Yeah. Well,
People are trying to get into real estate. I'm trying to get out of real estate.
We always ask people, like, what would you do to double your business right now if your back was up against the wall? And they always say, oh, I would do X, Y, and Z, right? And I'm not saying I have the answer for it. And then we always ask them, well, why are you not doing that now, right? But I think I would answer, the way that you answered it was, I would do what I know that I'm good at. And what I would propose for you is, because you're so good at being on the phone and generating appointments, and it sort of comes back to that, my difference in thinking with the MFO mindset is that you can replicate yourself, right? What we do is not that
special,
difficult, right? I mean, I listened to a call from our ISA today that was not a very good call, and he set me up on an appointment for what could be worth almost $3 million in listings. And this call needs to be dissected, and there's always room for improvement. But what I'm saying is the majority of sellers would have hung up on him, and he got the appointment. with a very, very, very rough script. So if you can find ways to duplicate or replicate, I should say, yourself, maybe that means one person calling your COI, one person's really trained up on expireds, one person's covering probates, right? And you then can work on other things. That totally. I think would be my feedback for you is if you want to get out of it, find a way to
duplicate and replicate yourself.
Yeah, totally. And that's what we're all trying to do, right? I mean, sure, we're all trying to get into it, but we're all trying to get out of it too, right? We're all trying to get freedom. So exactly. So, I think, I mean, that's like an ethereal answer, but I think that it's just do what you know how to do and duplicate and scale and try to
teach what you know how to do, because and inspire, because I think that's what we're all doing every day. Like, right, you asked if we're still heavily involved in MFO. No, we're not in coaching, but we're still, like, the things that are coming out of my mouth, sometimes I'm like, this is all the MFO mindset. So
yeah,
awesome.
That's
man.
Good.
Well, listen, if anybody would like to send you a referral, what's the best way for them to reach out or get in touch with you?
So it's admin at the Carroll Home Team. This should be admin at thecarrollteam.net. Instagram, you can find me on Instagram at Jon_W_Carroll. Follow us on YouTube too. We have a YouTube channel. We're doing some new cool stuff there as well. So, all the above.
Awesome, man.
Sweet, man.
Well, thank you so much for spending so much time with us today. We really appreciate it. I think people will certainly find it valuable, and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
We're going to do a quick selfie before we log off.